still letting people in as they arrive, so others will be joining. My name is Kathy Fracas. I am the new chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is my first meeting, so as chair, so please bear with me. Acting on this application today will be Rolf Tessum, who's on here, and he's new to the board. So I think, Rolf, if I'm correct, this is your first full official meeting. Is that right?
Yep, except for the one where we elected you chair. This is
right.
Our first meeting.
The first hearing. And we have Chuck Ogden today. He's the alternate on the ZBA. And Mark Holmes is out of town, so Chuck will be hearing this particular request. First, I'm going to read the posting. The Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing to consider the application of Sarah Keene, DBA Egremont Village Inn, 17 Main Street, South Egremont, for a modification of the December 10th, 2015 special permit issued to the barn, seeking to allow the outdoor live music with special provisions as allowed by Egremont Zoning Bylaw 4.3.1.5. The application can be viewed at the Egremont Town Hall or on the webpage, and written comments will be accepted and may be emailed to the town mailing address, as many were. So first of all, the call is being recorded, so please be aware of that. We're absolutely interested in comments and feedback that people want to provide during the hearing, but I'd like to do that in an organized fashion. So what we'll do is first share the full write-up that was provided by the applicant. And then Nick, are you on? I thought I saw Nick, but now I don't see him.
I'm counsel, can go.
Your counsel for Nick. So if you want to make any comments, or Nick can join and wants to make any comments at the beginning to present, once we've looked at the write-up itself, then we'll give you the opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Then the board members will have an opportunity to ask questions of you, and then discuss among ourselves and make statements about our thoughts, questions, concerns, what have you. We have all seen the written materials that people have sent in, of which there are many, as well as the results of the survey that was done. So we have a lot of material, and we've all received it and have all read it. So I want you to be aware that we do have all of that feedback. So let's get started. Oh, and once the ZBA has the opportunity to have our discussions internally to the board and ask you questions, Ken, if any arise, then we can open it up for comments, questions, concerns from others on the call. So if we can hold those comments until that point, I think we can be most efficient. Any questions about any of that?
Madam Chair, I would just like to ask if you received by email a document that was generated by a law firm summarizing just the Egremonters' response to this application.
Yes, we just received that this afternoon.
I'd like to move to add that to the record of these proceedings.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me actually share.
I'm just going to mute myself, and that's Nick Klein on my office phone. I'm just going to see what he's up.
Okay. All right, hang on. Let me share the.
Nick says he's in the waiting room, can't get in.
Oh, sorry, Nick. Oh, there are several people there. See, the multitasking. Okay, there, I just let them all in.
You can take that.
So they're joining. There are many of them. Okay. right? The waiting room should be cleared. Apologies for those who were waiting. Okay, first I'm going to share, if I can get it in the right place, I'm going to share my screen and we can look at this document together. This is the write-up that was provided by the barn as part of their application, and it describes their request. I'm not going to read every word here. This was posted, but basically the request is to be able to present minimally amplified acoustic music and entertainment with no more than 3 performers. There's a lot of information that they've provided here about curation of music, the nature of the music, the location of performers while they're performing outside. And the statement that there had been a study perhaps of the noise levels that would be generated. So those are some of the questions that I'm going to have questions about that, but I'd first like to open to Rolf or Chuck. Do you want to start, or actually, I apologize, Ken and or Nick, do you want to make any statements before we get into our discussions?
Yes, please. So as you know, this is the application of the barn to have minimally amplified music so that the residents of Egremont can enjoy music again and at the barn. And earlier today, I presided the board with a summary, 18 pages of comments by Egremonters, wholly sympathetic to this request to try and enliven the center of Egremont again with music during this very difficult time. And more importantly, in the summary of the actual abutters, there are very few oppositions. Those that are opposed are greatly opposed, but they're few in number. And I'm not going to go through everything, but I wanted to highlight a few things. First of all, the 2 closest abutters to the barn, 16 Main Street and 22 Main Street, are, in the words of Kelly, wholeheartedly supportive. And in the case of 16, as the barn's closest full-time residents, we are in complete support of outdoor music. Our 4-year-old daughter is super excited as well. So the comments are all on the records. There are a few abutters who had some modifications that they wished to seek, but none of them were actually opposed to the music at the barn in the way it's proposed to be presented. They were just looking for some changes. So even Susan Batchelder, who's the most vehement opponent to music at the barn, is not opposed to music at the bar. She just wanted to restrict the days that the music was played. And in her letter, she actually said that everybody in Egremont should be able to have music. I'm certain she'll be around to speak to that later. But in the survey that my office did, the board should find remarkable support for the barn. And just to get the legal things out of the way, and then I'm going to yield to Nick. On this record, when we're finished, I'm going to ask for a finding that the proposed amendment is in compliance with all other provisions and requirements of the bylaw and in harmony with its general intent and purpose, that the proposed amendment is essential or desirable to the public convenience or welfare at the proposed location, that the proposed amendment is not detrimental to adjacent uses or to established or planned future character of the neighborhood, that the proposed amendment will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety, that the proposed amendment will not overlook any public water, drainage, or sewer of any municipal facility and doesn't have any health effects on the general welfare. So we believe on this record that the board will be able to find that all the necessary conditions are in place. Nick, if you're with us, Madam Chair, can he be recognized?
Yes, I just wanted to ask one question first, Ken, and then we'll go to Nick. But
Of course.
who did the survey go to? I know I didn't receive it, and I'm hearing from others that they. Do you know how that was distributed?
Nick will have to speak to that.
Okay, great. Okay, Nick, all you.
All right, thank you for giving us this chance to talk through this. I'll deal with the question you just asked. It was done on our website. There was a form that people could fill out. It urged people to voice concerns and or support. You can go to our website, thegremontbarn.com, and you'll see a support tab at the top. You go there. The emails were sent to me on our server, and I forwarded them to Mary Brazy.
Okay, thanks. I hadn't seen it. Okay, other comments, Nick, that you'd like to make before the board goes into discussion?
I'll try to keep it brief and as non-dramatic as possible. Phase 3 for live music started 2 weeks ago. Due to the nature of the way the special permit currently is, we're not allowed to do it. So we're seeking the opportunity to present live music outside under very controlled circumstances, as it's outlined in our proposal. I also just put up a screenshot of the audio survey that we had done, which I can talk you through it, and hopefully David Schneerman, who did it, is an audio professional, can speak to that. We'll wait, see if he hops on, and I'll let him talk to that and what the takeaway is from that. The reality of in our industry during COVID times is very difficult. It's very difficult times, and the reality of what we're asking is, essentially going to be moot after November 1st anyway, because that's when outdoor dining provisions are taken away, and weather, of course, is going to limit any outside activities for the lion's share of the year. I would like to speak to a few things that Ken and I discussed in the abutters, in the few cons that came up from the abutters. The one consistent one was loud thumping music during weddings. It's mentioned in 2 different letters. We don't do weddings here anymore. We don't rent the space out for weddings any longer. And those 2 occasions were troubling, and I actually went over and pulled the plug on the DJs and had 9 frat boys surround me and scream at me to turn it back on. And I said, no, you're endangering our business. So those 2 things were actually disruptive to us as well. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, sort of off the table. As our permit is, as our application is worded, it says for any time that we're open. I'm definitely here in the spirit of negotiating. If that would technically be 7 days, since we have 7 days, we have operating hours 7 days. That's not what we're intending. So I'd like to get to that as soon as possible to discuss the reality of what we want to get out of this. Mm-hmm. And just very briefly, the overwhelming support that we've gotten has really been formed from our experience of every day, dozens and dozens of people who come to eat, asking with a very pointed look on their face, when's it going to start? People do need this. They really do. The musicians need it. They're one of the most kind of looked over groups in this time, and they have no recourse. And not only just to go for a few months, for the foreseeable future, these people have no way to apply their second trade or their first trade. Now at the barn, we have lots of space. What we are planning adheres to all of the phase 3 COVID requirements, suggestions that the state has put out to a T and beyond. So as far as any kind of inference that what we're going to do is going to be a health threat, that is false, because we're following the state's mandate. So you would have somebody saying that would have to impeach the state's health mandates, because we'll be following what Baker has put out for live music venues to follow. Completely, without exception. They do discourage singing but they give provision for singing, which is 25 feet from an audience member and 10 feet from other musicians. It's a serious restriction, and it pushes our facility to the limit to be able to do it, but we can do it, and we can do it safely.
Nick, I just want to highlight that you've been serving food outside, and just briefly highlight how that's going and how you're following the mandates for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, we're in 100% compliance at all times. There's been no inference that we're not, because we haven't. There couldn't be, because we follow everything. From the hospitality and the restaurant perspective, they're not easy to comply with, and they take a lot of energy. And what used to be a regular sort of hard shift is now extremely hard in a mask. So, other industries have to do it as well, but we have no problem with doing it, and we're going to continue to do it. So I truly believe from a health perspective, and from a public health perspective, everything is beyond. We have more room than a lot of people have. Just go to Railroad Street and see what they're doing. And anybody out there with a tape measure really seeing if things are 6 feet? Well, ours are well beyond 6 feet from one another. And the way that we've laid out our service and the way that we've accommodated for service leans into all that, because people have a lot of space. And we enforce masks, all of it. We're just, that to me is 100%. I mean, there's no possible inference that could be heard that what we're doing is is anything but completely compliant with what the state has put out. The only hitch is the tenor of our special permit right now.
Thanks,
Okay,
Nick.
thank you, Nick. Before the ZBA goes into their discussions, I'd like to, Juliet Haas, I think you're on. I had reached out to Juliet, who's the health commissioner, relative to the COVID-related questions, to get her feedback and so on. She responded with lots of good details, which have gone into the record as well. Juliet, do you have any comments to make about this proposal?
Thank you, Kathy. I don't really have a prepared statement. I'll just echo really what Nick said. The governor's approach to reopening business is a sector-specific approach. Instead of it being very broad, it's very definite in terms of describing individual businesses. So this is a music venue which meets the phase 3, stage 1 time reopening phase that we're in now. And from the beginning of the reopening of businesses, Nick and Jenny and I have been in conversation in terms of the road ahead for the barn to meet the specifics of the guidance. I'm not going to bore you with the pages and pages of guidance, and believe me, there is. As Nick just said, with musical performances, live, outdoor is preferable to indoor, and singing. There's reference in the guidance to singers must be 10 feet away from other performers. Must be 25 feet away from the audience. So as Nick said, he's taking these things into consideration from a Board of Health perspective, and I'm only going to comment on the Board of Health perspective and the reopening. I'm not a zoning officer. But from a Board of Health perspective, Nick and Jenny continue to cooperate and meet the guidance that's given from the state.
Great. Thank you very much, Juliet. I just wanted to make sure we had that information in front of us. Rolf or Chuck, do you want to start with discussion or questions to any of the parties at this point?
Yeah, this is Rolf. Nick, we haven't met in person, so welcome. So just to clarify, the variance you're seeking, I assume, would be for the duration of the COVID emergency, and then it would go away when things return to normal and you're allowed to return to indoor music as had been the norm previously. Is that right?
Well, it's certainly a salient negotiating point for what can come out of this meeting as a workable solution for you guys and for us and for the town. we prefer to be inside. Let me give you a little background. When phase 2 of phase 3.2 happens, when indoor live music is possible, it's even more restricted. Okay, so it's at that point it's 8 people per 1,000 square feet of indoor space, which will reduce our capacity to 12 people from 99. So as long as we're in phase 3, whether that's this month or November when the outdoor goes away, we're ostensibly looking at a radical trimming or really just cessation of music. And even if they did open it up to a larger concentration of people inside, our expectation is that people are going to be skittish about doing that for some time. So regardless of what we come up with today, and I really kind of want to underscore this, when November 1st happens and when the previous initiatives to help businesses out end, because that's when the agreement with the town for outdoor dining and the extension of the alcohol service outside end, really so does business. And that's not just us. That's going to be any other business like us and all the rest of the restaurants. So what you're looking at from our perspective and what maybe you're all witnessing is businesses in our position, not just for the near future, but for the prolonged future, probably the rest of the year and into next year, are looking at catastrophic loss of revenue. Period.
Right. I get that.
My point is, I would love it to be in perpetuity because I think it's a bonus and a plus for the community for us to be able to do it. However, if it makes everybody more comfortable to make this a temporary agreement to when that expires, I am more than amenable, and I can tell you why I'm amenable even, because I think that if we do it until that time, everybody's going to have a lot more data about what this is like, what works, what doesn't. And in the fall, in the winter, for next year, next summer, I would, if it's temporary, I would come back before you again with a perpetual with amending the special permit and, completely and in perpetuity. And I probably would be, everybody's going to have more data. The butters will have more data. You'll have more data. I'll have more data. We'll have experienced it for a period of time. It will come to a close and everybody will have a better understanding. So as much as I'd like with a straight face to say, please grant it forever. Yeah, great. That would be great. But it's not even really what, from a realistic point of view, what we're looking for, or maybe what's wise, because if we're allowed to do it for a period of time under these circumstances, we're all going to know more. We're all going to know more about what it would look like on a more permanent basis, because that's a whole nother kettle of fish. Maybe we wait till, who knows, June next year, people are going to be comfortable getting 99 to a room, maybe, but probably not for a long time. So this is critical to our survival.
Nick, let's move back to this sound study briefly because I don't want to forget that.
Okay. Well, I was responding to Rolf. Do you want me to get into that now, or does?
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify. So, I mean, in an ideal world, you would like this to survive the COVID emergency, but in a real world, you'd be okay if it expired when the COVID emergency by the state expired.
As long as there was none of that sort of thing where there's reciprocity, where you can't go in front of a board for 3 years with the same thing, because, I think that I think it's acceptable as a major negotiating point to agree that, in November it ends anyway. It ends anyway because we go inside and because I can't serve food and alcohol where we're doing it. So it ends anyway.
Right. Well,
how you do granted, it would end until a time at which it's comfortable to be outside again. So in reality, it ends, and I don't really have a problem with it being a temporary agreement as long as it doesn't preclude us coming back in front of you in the winter in expectation of next year, because I think it'll be necessary next year again under the health circumstances we're in. And ultimately, I think it's a small bit of flexibility that we're gonna execute with a lot of care for our neighbors, and it would be a good flexibility to have in the future, absolutely, for everybody. We've all learned that close proximity in these days is difficult for people, and it produces anxiety, and it's better to spread these activities out. And as long as we've done what we've outlined we're going to do and reality meets our expectations all around, then I think that's what I'd like to see. I mean, granted, if you guys want to grant it, great, I'm all ears, but realistically, with as much controversy and what the gravity of what you guys have to decide, I'm fine with that. I'm 100% fine with that.
You seeing the image that I'm sharing here?
Yes.
So this is, Nick, I think this is the one that you just posted to the chat.
Yes.
You want to give a very, very brief description of what this is showing us? I tried to make it bigger, and it gets kind of blurry.
Yeah, that's you'll be able to get the gist of it. I mean, the reality is, again, what we're planning are and what we put in that application are acoustic instruments. Now that means not electric guitars, not full drum sets. We're talking about acoustic guitars, strings, anything like that. We're not interested in having somebody shredding on an electric guitar out front for a lot of reasons. One, because we have guests that are much closer than any of our abutters. So I've no dog in the fight of disturbing the area. But so what we're truly planning on doing is small groups. A lot of it's just going to be solo singers or solo artists. Occasionally it'll be a duet or a trio. All of it minimally amplified, which means it's just enough to carry in the very direct area that's around us. And I can go into more detail on what we're planning technically to achieve this. This graph here, what you're looking at, you just need to concentrate on the back half of it. What happened, what this is the sound analyst walked a mic in and out from the road into the barn while generating a 90 dB white noise, which is, by comparison, much louder than your average musician on acoustic music. It's just a louder sound. It's more in the range.
It's about 7 dB louder.
There's David. That's David. Do you want to address this? This is David Schneerman, the man who did the study and audio professional extraordinaire.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, what I did was, at first, we did not put out any source sound whatsoever. We did it, we walked from the barn all the way to the street, which was 285 feet, with a test microphone, and to measure just the ambient sound within the space. And the ambient sound came to, you can see, it's the blue and red trace down below. The ambient sound stayed way below 90 dB. And, but that was cars and trucks and so on and so forth. And the general street noise in New York City is somewhere between 90 and 97 dB. What you have to understand about decibels is that they're logarithmic, so they're not exponential. So you need a lot of power to raise from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. In fact, if you wanted to double your power or double your decibels, go from 2 dB to 4 dB, you'd have to put out twice the amount of power to do that. So we were just trying to get a baseline, which was measuring what was out there. And then what we did was, when I was out at the road, we put up a 90 dB signal from a speaker situated about, I'd say, 5 feet from the front doorway. And then I walked back with that same microphone. And it primarily showed, and that's the second part of this trace. It primarily showed that nothing changed. When I went from the street to the front, there was no discernible change, maybe a half dB, a dB here, a dB there. It fluxes very much. And so what you do is, what you see on the bottom, the numbers are average numbers based on time frame. And what you can see is there's a 90-second average, which is the longest average, and that's the average is 66.5 dB, which is way below the ambience. So the average for most of the time was quieter than what we got on a wide level. So based on that, and also based on my observations of when I, as a patron, have gone to the barn, even when they have a rock and roll band in there and the door is open to let people in, the volume level is almost as low as the street level behind me. Because 23, and the way that 23 is situated, and in that area, it seems to gather quite a bit of noise.
Okay.
I joined the meeting late on my cell phone. How would I be recognized?
Who is this?
This is Lou Muscatello, South Egremont resident.
Do you have a question specifically about noise level?
Yes, but more specifically about the common sense of opening up a music venue at this time, especially given what's happened in New York when they've allowed open restaurants with music. They became drinking episodes. And
if you could just hold on for 1 second. The board hasn't even discussed yet, so we're going to do that. We had a board member had a specific question about some of these noise-related elements. So
rowdy crowds are noisier than anything.
If you don't mind holding your comment for a bit, that would be great. We're just trying to be organized.
Thank you. I will.
Sure. Barbara Kalish has a question. Rolf, I don't want to trample on your time, but Barbara, if you have a quick question that you want to ask now specifically about the decibels.
Because I did a little research, and actually New York City after 11 o'clock has a noise code of 5 dB. I've noticed that Copac has a very low threshold for sound, as well as Hillsdale. So I think that we would need to do a little bit more I suggest the town do a little bit more comparison as to what dB levels mean. Also, my comment on the traffic, 23, the traffic is only what I would call Egremont rush hour. Come 9 o'clock, I see perhaps 3 cars go by and 1 truck. So it's a different issue than noise at night caused by music. I am not against the outdoor music, and I understand the need to make a living. I just would like to see measurable requirements and limitations on the duration. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, one more question regarding the noise level, and then I want to get back.
Yeah, I don't really understand the graph here. So the blue is the regular noise level, and what is the green? Is that music on top of the regular noise level?
No. The green was a secondary trace that just it showed if we were, what we do is we measure different ranges and to see primarily it's different scale, Mark, and it's not really necessary for this. It just happened to be on that space.
Well,
it's
my
a phase
question,
relationship. It's not a decibel relationship.
so how would that now be impacted by acoustic music, minimally amplified?
Less than a dB or 2.
So we wouldn't have a heavy bass, boom, 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 that
No.
goes through. Got it.
No, you wouldn't have a heavy bass at all. You'd have primarily string music, acoustic guitar, violin, mandolin type stuff, or singing and an acoustic guitar.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Okay, thanks for that information. I want to get back to Rolf. Rolf, what other questions or comments do you have?
I just wanted to kind of get back, Nick, if I could, just to follow up on the duration thing. And we don't know. I mean, next year we may still be under an emergency order of some kind by the state. I guess, and the other kind of common theme is that we don't have a lot of data to go on here. So I appreciate your position that if we were to put a time limit or an expiration based on the COVID expiring, that you would be okay with that, and if that weren't prejudicial to coming back and asking for a permanent variance, that would probably give a lot of people a lot more comfort level. That's just sort of my feeling at the moment. I'm pretty okay with the noise presentation. But do you have any other thoughts on that? I mean, you were pretty specific a moment ago before we started talking about the noise. Do you have any further thoughts? I mean, obviously it would be beneficial to you if we could give you a permanent variance. We don't know and I guess your position is that even if the COVID regulations from the state expire, that as a human nature thing, people are going to be reluctant to go back indoors. Is that sort of where you're coming from?
That's the reality. The barn became known is known as a cozy place where, the numbers that we have to do to survive have relied upon, a full house. And we're having to look at that and make a calculation on when that's possible, if it's possible, and what on earth to do in the meantime. Because, like I said, regardless of the length of the special permit, considering you grant it whether it's temporary or not, there's still a great deal of complication once as long as phase 3 is in effect, and that's, if you look at phase 4, it's tied to vaccine production and treatment. Certainly that's going to be a source of great controversy for some time. So who knows when that'll roll around to being actually moving on to phase 4 and what that'll look like. So, we're just trying to approach what are an immense, mind-boggling amount of uncertainties for specifically our business. Obviously, a lot of people have lost their business, cleaned out a lot of industry, continuing to do that every day. And this is an opportunity to get the barn, but more importantly, the larger community of musicians and artists and patrons that have come to rely on it for some stress relief and ancillary income and a positive experience. A brief window of time before Mother Nature is going to put a kutchka on it anyway, regardless. I mean, it's going to be dark. It's going to be inside, even if it can happen to the 3 people sitting in the back of the room with 1 person singing, right? Which is what it's looking like, or 10 people or whatever, if after November 1st anyway. So, I mean, there's no way we're getting out of, well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know what it's going to be. As long as phase 3 is enacted, we have serious hardship.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? I don't know how to get in on this. So
Who is that, first of all?
this is Elizabeth Bledsoe.
Okay, if you could just hold on one second, Elizabeth. What we wanted to do, just for those of you who joined late, we want to make sure that the ZBA members are able to ask their questions and have their discussions, and then we will absolutely make time for all the comments and questions that people have.
Okay, great.
Sure. Thank you.
Kathy, you can move on for me.
Okay, Chuck, do you have questions, comments, or statements?
I do. Thank you. I have not met personally with the Keens, but as chairman of the Board of Health, we've had dealings with the Keens and the operation of the barn and the Village Inn. And I will say for the record that they have been extremely cooperative with us and all of our mandates, if you will. And so I'll say that first. I do have two concerns. One is the viability of your business. Small businesses are definitely hurting, and you're right, many are going out of business. My second concern, of course, is the surrounding neighborhood. And I did not get the many, many pages of positive comments. I've only received the negative ones. However, I do have some questions I wish you would answer. The seating would be in the parking area, correct?
No, we have currently, and it won't change in the event of outdoor music. There is a roundabout that's in between the carriage house and the barn and the lawn area. We have, in order to seat outside and provide safety, we've blocked off the roundabout, and the parking area is exactly the same. People park and walk into the round green area that's between those buildings, and the tables are there, and they're distributed widely and way more than 6 feet apart. Most of them definitely, obviously no closer than 6, and most of them are a lot farther apart. It is a aggregate 75 by 75. I believe that it was 6,000 plus square feet that were specified in the phase 2 outdoor dining area that was outlined, and we're not suggesting that we change that at all. The amount of people that we want to see come and come see a show is not a factor larger than those people that are interior capacity. We're not interested in having some huge jump just because it's outside. We're making sure everybody stays apart, but they're not in the parking area. They're in a green area and in a portion of the driveway that came up the barn.
So I take it your seating capacity is around 100 outdoors?
Correct. I believe what they approved was 120, but we actually only have about 92 seats out there right now, and I wouldn't go past what they've already suggested.
Now, when you book if you book these musical events, will you do it by reservation, over the phone, over the internet?
Well, that's a good question. Most likely we will follow the same procedure that we did before, which is people have to buy tickets, and the ticket secures you a seat, and you're paying for dinner separately. But we've always been welcome. If people want to buy a ticket and sit and have a Coca-Cola, they can do that too. We don't force people to order the food. We will have a ticketing system for people, and we'll turn away those that exceed our capacity. I mean, if I was using that 6,000 odd square feet by the letter of the law for concerts, it could be hundreds. I could fit there. It's not what we're going to do.
Well, I would suggest you don't have the parking for hundreds anyway.
Right. I mean, even at 6 foot away, it's even if everybody was in a 6 foot square, it would still be way more. But we're gonna go with the seating area, and we're gonna go with a ticketed approach.
Just to interrupt for one sec, Juliet pointed out in the chat that phase 3 allows for 100 max outdoor gathering that includes patrons, staff, and musicians.
Correct, and that's our current capacity inside. So that's why we're going to stick with that.
Okay, just wanted to get that out there.
It also, go ahead.
I have some more questions for you.
Sure.
Since your entertainers will be under the overhang, what lavatory facilities will you have for your customers?
We have 3 bathrooms. They are accessible through each door. Now, what I've been working on the last few days in aid of this is where the musicians will be. Once they're there and they're singing, people no longer have access through the front door because that's within 25 feet. So that will be blocked. And only staff will use that door, and people will use the side entrance to use the lavatories. And they could use either the 2 right there, and they could walk across the bar and use the 3rd lavatory without violating the 25-foot rule from the performer who's aspirating and singing.
Now, do you feel that amplification of any kind is necessary?
I do.
You do.
Absolutely. I think that if it's going to be a presentation of music akin to what we've done, minimally amplified is it's a misnomer that it's either amplified or not. There's sound reinforcement that's very subtle, okay, and it's not either a guy on a guitar with no mic or stacks and stacks and it's a Rolling Stone show. There's many levels of specificity. There's different kind of technology. David is helping us work with monitors that are very subtle and hidden, that they point down. They don't even point out at the road, what we're suggesting. Stuff like that. That's what we're looking into in aid of making sure that this is as low impact as possible. So I think that to have a contiguous experience for all ticket goers in that area, all attendees of the event, yes, it needs very slight amplification. It's very
They're going to
light.
be if they're going to be spending money too, buying a ticket to see a show, they do want to have that experience where they can hear the music, obviously not super loud, like Nick was saying. There are many levels.
It's not about loud, it's about even coverage. It's about allowing people to experience the music, but not necessarily be inundated by the music.
Okay. The application was slightly modified recently to include the word entertainment. Could you explain that?
Yes, we present stand-up comedy and spoken word sometimes, and that should be in there as well, which is that would be even less intrusive.
I think the board will want to talk about hours and days of operation later.
Okay.
For now, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And from my perspective, so I want to reiterate that we did receive all of the positive and the negative feedback from neighbors, abutters, and people in other towns who chimed in as well. There was a lot of feedback on this request, and that's all on record. So I wanted to assure everyone of that. From a question, we've answered most of the outstanding questions that I had. One of the questions remaining is, so some of the concerns that people did state, and this was touched on, was the bass issue, right? So the boom, boom, bass sort of thing, which is tends to be most intrusive to people. That's what they most are concerned about. Also, I had a question about percussion. So you said no full drum kits, but I don't know what limited percussion means. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So for instance, brushes. A lot of bluegrass has brushes on a snare or shakers or, a stomp box. Or it would be a little bit odd to say you cannot have a percussion instrument. But I certainly understand that what we don't need is John Bonham on a drum solo roll. Now, luckily,
We do, just not at the barn.
Well, not outside and not right now, that's for sure. And our vision for it is that occasionally in a duo or a trio, there may be somebody who has some hand percussion. A cajon is a common box instrument. And, as far as amplification, and do we need it? For a shaker, probably not. That may be the first thing that's like, somebody's on a shaker or brushing the drum set, and we'll make sure that's, also to just back up, okay, so we spent a great deal of time on our sound system. We spent a great deal of time on adjusting and making a very subtle, well-mixed show. And we're going to bring the same kind of attention to this in aid of keeping it quiet, keeping, as David said, an even distribution so that everybody there can hear it. But there's ways that we can arrange this technology that it literally, when just today, again, I'm going over this every day. You get about halfway out, you get to the driveway, you get to the parking lot, and it dies. The sound begins to truly die then. It's not really noticeable at the road, even when it's very noticeable right in front. It's just the way of the acoustics there. And it's the nature of the way sound travels. And it's only going to be even more mitigated if you give us a chance to do it by getting special equipment that completely mitigates it. But it's not an investment I'm going to make until, and that's on me to do so. But the percussion, so that's what I think about percussion. If some drummer shows up, first of all, we have slots for where they're going to sit. The singer has to sit over there. There's going to be a new experience for these musicians. They're not going to roll and go, hey, I like it over here, man. I'm going to sit over here. It's like, no, the singer sits there. The keyboardist sits there. The guy on the fiddle sits there. End of story. And if not, then you don't play because everybody's working real hard. And we certainly are to try to come up with a way for people to do this because it's mutually beneficial for everyone. So we're going to be pretty tough on that. That was what I was addressing with percussion. And your other question was about bass. So bass drums, occasionally, when not in a rock show, will carry farther. Bass, an electric bass, bass amp, louder. And that's what these people are complaining about for whatever reason. Well, we're talking about if there's a bass player there, they're probably in a stand-up bass, right? If someone shows up with a giant bass cabinet, you're going to tell them to go home.
Okay. And then one final question I had was, if I can find it. Oh, do you have any intention and what is the feasibility of during the sound check? So when, if musicians were to arrive and set up, they're going to do a sound check typically, right? Would there be any way to do, level testing at the various boundaries of the property at that point during sound check so you can verify that you're meeting the constraints that might be applied?
I can talk to that if you don't mind.
Sure.
Before you do that, can you mute everybody else? There's a couple of people here who are on their cell phones and they keep talking and I can't hear Nick. And I'd like to hear his explanation, or everybody to hear his explanations. Thank you.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me mute everybody and then I'll unmute you. Now it won't let me unmute you. Can you
I can do it.
yourself?
I did it. Yes.
How about it?
Yes, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
These people, if you're not actively speaking, please stay on mute.
So we were talking about bass transmission. We were talking about which I lost the.
No, during sound check, decibel testing.
Oh, sound pressure level meter. Yes, I have a handheld sound pressure level meter that I can provide Nick and give him the training or somebody else the understanding and training of how to read it. It's not that difficult to do. And then we can set a bass and then understand if it goes above or below it. And then, yes, we can, during sound check, which I've done in many concerts, where I walk the theater and listen to it, I go up to the band sometimes and say, you have to turn your amp down or you need to do that. Or I go back to the mixing console and just bring everything down. So, yes, we can do that. You're still muted.
Oops, you're muted.
I'm muted. I'm unmuted now. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. I'm going to open up for questions, comments, concerns. First, I'd like to go to, we had a request for Lee Davis, who's a selectman in Great Barrington. Lee, did you have a comment to make?
Yes, thank you very much for letting me join this meeting. I just wanted to kind of take a broader view, kind of a bird's eye view, and just speak a little bit about what Great Barrington has been moving forward with and our commitment to businesses that we made as soon as COVID hit. As many of you know, we closed a portion of Railroad Street off to accommodate our businesses in downtown Great Barrington. And it's been an overwhelming success. We've since added outdoor entertainment behind the portion in a parking lot that's privately owned outside Fiesta Restaurant that is catering to the tenants of this building, such as Fiesta, Steam, Tangier, etc. And there's a band, and we've permitted outdoor music. And I guess why I wanted to talk was just to say that we've really gone out of our way to support businesses. And Egremont Barn is a classy business. They've shown that they're good at what they do. They've shown that they're inclusive, that they're caring about the community, that they'll do anything they can to listen to the concerns of the residents. So I'm just appealing, I guess, for a broader view of, we need this business. This business is not just Egremont. This benefits the region. This benefits Great Barrington. This benefits, the people of Egremont. And I'm just appealing for anyone on this call that might be against this, just to step back and think about the big picture and think about how badly we need businesses and how we need economic development. And we need to support the owners, such as what's happening at the barn. And they're really trying to do all they can to stay in business and provide a benefit to the community. So I just wanted to say that what we've done in Great Barrington, we haven't had any complaints. We've added outdoor music. We're doing all we can to support business. And we've made a commitment. And I'm just asking for the residents of Egremont and the board and the ZBA to do the same. So thank you very much for speaking.
Thanks, Lee. Okay, so Elizabeth Bledsoe, you had a question teed up, and then Barbara Kalish, I see that you have a hand up, so you'll be after. People who are on the video call, you can put your hand up using Zoom. Feel free to do that, and then I can call on you, and we can do this in a semi-organized fashion. People on phones only, if you don't mind holding your comments till we get to you, and then you can basically shout out, and we'll have to recognize you as you do so. So again, Elizabeth, then Barbara, then Greg Sharon.
Okay. Hi, Elizabeth Bledsoe. And I just want to say I've supported the barn. I supported Robbie Burns. I really loved it, and I'm glad the barn's there. It doesn't really affect me because I live out of town, but I'm kind of wondering about it setting precedents. I had a couple of things. One was I really would like to see this temporary for COVID, and then maybe readdress it later. The other concern I have is the hours in this. They're looking at 7 days a week. I know I'm in medicine, so I know some of the CNAs and nurses that live right around there, and they're up at 5 in the morning to get to their shift. And this is running 7 days a week till 11 o'clock at night. That just seems like it's an awful lot to put on people that have to work if the sound is going to bother them or get to them. And I know 23 in the day is very different from 23 at night. It's usually quiet when you go to bed. At 7 days a week would also affect anybody that lives, sitting on their porch just wanting to sit out at a quiet night. So I would ask maybe to consider limiting the days to like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, something like that, to where there is a break for the people that really don't want to hear this 7 days a week. But I am very supportive of it. The other thing that he brought up was saying that the staff would be walking through the doors by the singers, and they're really not supposed to be doing that. They're not supposed to be I think the staff's about the same as the public, 25 feet from people singing. And they're going to be going in and out of these doors right behind the singers or right between the singers or the musicians. So if somebody could address that, any of it.
Great, thank you. Nick and Jenny, do you want to respond to that? Please unmute yourself. Yeah, thanks.
Well, the restrictions are clear that and Baker defines it as audience, and we're all masked.
We're wearing masks
during work
the staff.
all the time. And musicians are hypothetically are contract employees for the evening. So the rules of employee to employee apply, and we will be following those.
Yeah.
And is
No,
that,
I was thinking,
is that
I was
masked
thinking
6 feet?
What?
Is that masked and 6 feet away?
Yes.
Thanks.
so
Okay.
they're not, you said that the people, the singers were going to be 5 feet from that door. How's the staff using the door and keeping
Farther
social
from the
distance?
door.
The singer's about 15 to 17 feet from the door. And,
Oh, okay.
Baker didn't do us a bunch of favors in this one by not untying the town's hands to deal with it without a lot of hullabaloo. Two, by not differentiating different groups. But the fact is, he differentiated singers and audience members, and that's what we'll go with.
Yeah, but you got to, I'm thinking as a healthcare worker, I'm thinking of your staff too. And
So am
they're happy to do what you tell them to do.
So am I. I'm thinking of my staff. I am my staff. I'm going to be the one that's there.
Okay.
So they
All right.
won't-
Thanks,
they won't
Elizabeth.
be-
We're going to move on to the next set of questions. Thank you.
But you didn't address the hours and days. I don't know.
I agree. No, I'd like to talk about the
Well-
hours and days whenever the zoning board wants
Yeah,
to.
let's get to that. That's on my list, and I think the board is talking about that. So we'll absolutely get back to that, Elizabeth. Thanks. Barbara.
Well, in aid of being direct and clear, I would like to propose an alternate to both things. I mean, when I wrote that, I wasn't actually proposing 7 days, but I know how these things work. I know what other people have written. That's not tenable. What I would like to see happen, and what works financially and with the flow of programming in the past, would be to approve Wednesday through Sunday. And I'll go a step farther. 5 days a week. And we're very comfortable. I would like to have Sunday night free. But classically, what we've had has been karaoke on Sunday, and we're not doing that because that's too much of a variable. You never know. We're not doing karaoke because somebody might choose Embrace Me by Gershwin and someone else does Black Sabbath, and we can't ride that level like that, and it's amplified, right? It's different. It's a totally different animal, and we're not doing that outside. So Sunday night is the window for that. I would like to have it approved all the way through, but the reality of what we're going to do is what we used to do. Wednesday night is open mic. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, artistic shows until, and maybe a shorter set earlier with another artist, quiet during dinner, and then a regular show at 8, the way that it was before, same way we used to do it sometimes. And Sunday night, I'm really, to be honest, I'm so tired. I don't need to push through it to Sunday night. And if that's going to make this go quicker, I'm happy to say let's not do it. We've been doing brunch during the day, and I'd like to be able to have music during brunch, during the days on the weekends. That shouldn't bother anybody. And if Sunday night before school, even there is no school anymore, is certainly something that I can really get behind that. I'd really not like to get into a whole lot of back and forth beyond that, but we can. Obviously, it's your guys' show. But in all honesty, without playing poker, that would be best. That's where the numbers work for us for a very short period of time. Everybody has to remember this is to November 1st. Either way, whether you grant it in perpetuity or not, we're talking about 10, 12 weeks. It's going to be over before everybody blinks. And that's what would be best. That's also not just for us. There are so many musicians that, that's going to be, we're not going to be having people are lined up to play. It's going to give probably, the large roster of people that we know and curate with who are appropriate for this, 1 or 2 slots. It's going to go like this.
Okay. Thanks, Nick. Barbara, let's hear from you.
Thank you. I agree with about 90% of what Elizabeth Bledsoe said, so I'm not going to repeat any of that. But one thing I want to request the ZBA to seriously consider a limitation on this variance, because If you make it into perpetuity, it travels with the property and is not related to who owns it. And that would concern me greatly because we are discussing this with the Keens. We are all comfortable with how the Keens are running their business, but we don't know who might come after that if that were the case. So my request is that this just be limited to the COVID situation and that we have a chance to get used to what's going on there.
Great. Thanks, Barbara.
As crazy as it sounds, I agree with you, Barbara. This is a huge adjustment for us. We're not, there's a lot to try to get through and make sense of and to fit into this very unique, that's the word I'll use, community. So I don't disagree with that.
Okay. Greg Sharon. And then after Greg, I think the Fred Gordon box there is waving hands, so you're after Greg.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Kathy. I just wanted to say that as one of the closest neighbors to the barn, I'm in support of them. And I also want to speak on behalf of Jared and his family. Jared Kelly, who lives across the street from the barn, asked me to go ahead and speak for him because we had a little discussion beforehand. And although I do know that he sent an email in support, I think, basically the thing is again, maybe not all week long. I don't know how many, I understand, Nick, that you don't want to do Sundays, but I guess maybe I didn't hear it, but maybe it wasn't said what you are thinking. Are we talking Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Or are we talking like Monday through Saturday? Or what are we talking about?
Right. Wednesday, 4 nights, and a Sunday.
Okay, so that's a big help just to know that. And the next thing, I guess, would be, of course, hours. Although personally, my guess is, just having done a lot of, I'm not going to say a lot of bar hopping, but a lot of music in my past, and my experience has been that acoustic music is by and large quiet, even when amplified, and I'm going to bet that it's going to be hard to hear it even out from the street standing in front of the barn, as Nick has tried to say with his sound information. So, and then the final thing I wanted to address is the possibility, of course, of a sort of a trial basis, if you will. I know it's a pain to get these meetings together and do this all over again, but perhaps it might be fair to both the barn as well as the citizens to go ahead and grant a permit through the end of the season, until November or whenever it is that Nick feels like he's, it's got to end because of the weather or whatever, unrelated to COVID, and let everybody at that point perhaps meet again and say, hey, gosh, it didn't bother us at all, And I don't know, I understand Barbara Kallish's concern about having been on the planning board. I do know that some of these things can stick with the property as opposed to, just giving them, the barn, their permit. So it might be worth, and of course I'm not on the zoning board, maybe, you should know better than I do. Perhaps there's a way to create something that could stick with just the barn. I don't know. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Right.
Okay. The Fred Gordon family.
Thank you. Just a few comments. I want you to imagine a world without the barn. The barn has been a tremendous citizen in our community. They have hosted the Council on Aging luncheons. They have run a variety of charity events to raise money for various organizations in the neighborhood. And they've also provided a forum for elected officials here in Egremont. But most importantly, I want everyone to consider that they are building a bridge as they are crossing it. We don't know what the future looks like, but they are fighting for their financial survival. And at every opportunity that Governor Baker gives us, they are there to create an opportunity to survive. And they're surviving not for us, they're surviving for the musicians, they're surviving for their employees, they're surviving for citizens in this community. And all I ask is that you give them the opportunity to continue to be creative
and support our community as they have done in the past. Because imagine a world without the barn. It doesn't look as rosy as the world as we have right now. And I know my wife Donna wants to say a few words as well.
Hi, I'm Donna Gordon. I'm just going to second what Fred said and what Greg said. There's a lot of institutions here in the Berkshires that are trying to figure out ways to be creative in this climate. You have the Berkshire Botanical Garden. They are now having Monday nights of music in their garden, socially distanced, acoustic music. I think it's amplified to some degree again. So, and I think the Mount is starting to look at that. So all the institutions that have previously given us some summer music are starting to look at that and how to present that in a safe way according to the guidelines, and to bring back music into our community. So I think, we owe it to the barn. They are sort of an institution here in Egremont. And I think we owe it to them to allow them to experiment, to be creative, and to move forward. And like Greg and Fred just said, I think let's see how it goes. Let's give it a chance and see how it goes, and we can revisit. But to not give them that opportunity, would be really sad indeed, I think, for the community. Thank you.
Hey, Kathy, did we lose Chuck?
Oh, he just disappeared. I don't know. Hang on. Everybody hang on. We have to find Chuck.
Chuck's done. He's sick of it.
Hopefully he's going to rejoin. I'm going to try to get in touch with him. Yeah, we need to hold any discussion until we get Chuck back. Thank you for noticing that. There is also a thunderstorm coming. I don't know if you all can hear the thunder. It is currently thundering. I'm watching the weather report. It's not supposed to hit here for over an hour. I don't believe that because I can hear it. So
I'm hearing thunder here.
Let it rain.
yeah, fingers crossed
Yeah.
regarding telecommunication capabilities.
No, rain. We want the rain. Please give us.
Hmm.
Look.
Chuck, where are you?
Look, it's just down there. Moon is up. Seeing the moon?
No word from him yet. I hope he didn't lose internet.
Did you text him? Or
I don't have his number right here handy. I emailed him. If you have his number, you could text him. And I'm keeping an eye on the waiting room to see if he returns to us.
yeah, I don't have his number.
Let me see if I can find it.
Kathy?
Yes.
Excuse me, Kathy. Mary McGurn.
Oh, hi, Mary.
George has called Chuck Osgood,
Oh, good. Thanks.
and he is trying to get him on his phone so he can listen in on a phone.
Can he call in? Can Chuck call in just with his phone? Has he lost all access?
I'll check and see with George, okay?
Mary.
Okay, I'm moving to Mary's computer, and you can talk, and this has worked before. Okay, you're unmuted, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, Kathy, Chuck is here.
Chuck? Chuck, are you there?
Can he hear? Or can he call in?
Chuck?
Chuck, can you hear?
Put it on speaker.
How is he in?
Now are you on speaker, Chuck? Chuck?
Is
Chuck?
George McGurn is muted.
Unmute yourself and see if that works. I'll unmute you. Oh,
No,
okay.
no, it's with you.
All right.
Go for it.
Can he call in?
I'm on mute. Right now, we're trying to get Chuck on speaker on a phone here to come through on my computer.
Can you hear me?
Have no idea here.
Can he just call in to one of the call-in numbers?
Can he hear? Can he speak?
Okay. Chuck, can you speak to Kathy?
Kathy, can you hear me?
Barely. Can we get him closer somehow? Or Chuck, could you call directly in?
Here, try it now.
Through one of the... Go ahead, Chuck.
I can hear you better now, Kathy.
I can barely hear you. We're going to need you louder. Can you call in by phone into the call-in number, which I can shout to you?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me? George, can you translate this to him?
Can you give me the number, Kathy? Hold on. I'll write it down.
Thanks. It's on the meeting invitation.
Okay, which one do you want me? The one, what is it, 646?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Any of them work.
Go with the 646 one.
All right, we'll do this.
46 is the New York one.
Okay, so you want to give him this number right now.
And then he's going to need the meeting ID. Do you see that, Mary? The 8.
I've got it. 646. He's to dial this number. Meeting one.
Okay, Chuck, you ready? 646 +1 646 558 8656.
And he dials in. Yeah.
And he'll need the meeting ID too.
Right. He'll need the meeting ID and he'll need the passcode. So please communicate those to him.
Meeting ID is 848 4264 7434. The password is 767436. Yep, same thing, Chuck. You got it? Exactly. Okay. Okay. You well?
All right, Kathy, Chuck has all the information. He's hanging up here and he's going to be phoning in.
Okay. We're going to have to wait for him to call in. So
Right.
I'm watching for him to join so I can let him in.
All right.
So apologies to everyone and thanks for your patience. We'll get there. Oh. Chuck, is that you? Chuck?
Yes, Kathy.
There he is. Excellent. Thank you.
Welcome back.
That took a village. That took a village.
Finally.
Thanks. All right.
Love this too.
Okay. Other comments, questions, concerns? Who would like to speak? Anyone?
Kathy, I just noticed in the chat that Jennifer made a comment there and had to leave the meeting.
Oh, thanks. Okay, let me read Jennifer's comment. I'm not sure who Jennifer is. Completely agree with the last speaker. I need to get a little one in the bath and bed. We are directly across the street and our incomplete support of outdoor music supporting the business also supports the ongoing health of Egremont. Thank you, Jenny and Nick, for all your hard work. Good night, everyone. So that's the across the street neighbor. Other comments, questions, concerns before we, yes, Roberto.
Yes, I'm Robert Bacon. I live at 15 Sheffield around the corner.
You're going to have to get closer to a microphone.
Okay. I live at 15 Sheffield around the corner. And I want to say I've been very impressed with the sincerity and earnestness of the preparation that's gone and thinking that's gone into this. I like pretty much everything that I've heard, and I've always enjoyed the barn when I've been there, and I think it's an asset to the community. And during these times, we really do have to try something different. I like the idea of it being somewhat provisional in that it's seasonal and that it's revisited again, not to deny that it continue if need be, but maybe for community feedback. Because frankly, we don't know how if we're going to hear it and how long we might hear it for. But I support the initiative that's being taken, and I think it's essential in this time.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Bruce K.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to start by saying that it's as long as,
sorry, Bruce, if you could just identify your full name, please.
oh, I'm sorry, Bruce Kassenbaum.
Thank you.
I'm over on Jug End Road. I don't live across the street, but I wouldn't mind living across the street from the barn. I just want to say that for all the time that I've spent there, the Keens are very professional. They're very concerned about the sound quality and about what they're presenting. And I think that what they're trying to do is to give, not only make a living, but they're trying to give work to the people, as somebody else has said here. And I think that you're going to attract people to Egremont, especially during this time, with a venue to come and enjoy. And just in terms of people keeping within the bounds that you set, I've been racing at Lime Rock for 40 years, and we have noise control there. I have to tell you, we have to go through efforts to meet that noise control, but we do it because we enjoy what we do there. And other tracks, we don't have to do that, and it's much easier. But what Nick and the family wants to do is bring the musicians here, and they're going to stay under the decibel readings that you said. And I know that, I think it was David said he could give a sound meter that if you wanted to check it. And I just think it's a great thing, and I hope you pass it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Okay, Chuck, I just want to health check on Chuck. Are you still on?
Definitely.
Okay. I can't see you anymore, so I just want to make sure we're all here. Okay.
Thunderstorm coming.
Yeah, I know. We're all a little worried about that. Okay, other comments, questions, concerns? Yes, from the Fred Gordon family. Donna, unmute yourself, please. Unmute.
Unmute yourself.
Okay.
I am muted now. Donna Gordon, Blunt Road, down the road from the barn. I just want to say, Madam Chairman, you've done a great job at mediating this first, moderating this first session of yours. Thank you. And I remembered the Board of Health, the gentleman from the Board of Health said he hadn't received any of the positive comments. So I just wanted to make sure that he got those and make sure that everybody also got the positive feedback supporting the barn, make sure that was out there and received by everybody in question.
Yeah, thank you. And I will follow up on that because from what I saw, they were sent out to the full board. So I'll make sure that Chuck has all of that. Chuck, I'll re-forward them to you in case you didn't get them.
There were a lot of them.
There were a lot of them. Yeah. So, and we did get, so we got them individually as they came in. And then we also got an aggregation of them yesterday or the day before, the full set. So we have all that material. And again, there are many of them. There are also some people expressing strong concerns. So we'll take those as well. So thank you, Donna, for bringing that up. Yes, and I do have it on my list of things to do to make sure that Chuck has that material. So Chuck and Rolf, what I'd like to do now, if no one else has a comment, question, concern that they'd like to voice, anyone need to be heard, shout out, because I can't see everyone. So shout out if you want to speak. Okay. All right, so I think what I'd like to do now is hear from both Rolf and Chuck as to your current impressions, thoughts, proposals, to see if we can get to a motion. So, Rolf, you want to start?
Sure. I think based on what I've heard, what I've read, I'm inclined to support the proposal with the condition that it expire when the COVID emergency expires, and with the limitation on the days of the week that Nick has sort of quasi agreed to up front here. I think that from my standpoint, the sound considerations have been satisfied. I really don't have concerns on that front. I think that the my main issue is that it be limited in duration to the emergency until we have a little more experience with it, and then I'd be inclined to revisit it for next season. And of course, that would be without prejudice as to doing that.
Okay, thanks, Rolf. Chuck?
Well, I concur with that. Wednesday through Saturday seems reasonable. I too am in favor of an expiration of this permit. Nick suggested November 1st, 2020, and then it goes away, and they can reapply perhaps in the spring for next season. What we haven't discussed is the hours of operation.
Right, and
were any hours proposed? Because I haven't read. Was it 6 to 9? Is it 6 to 10?
Right.
What?
Yeah, and Chuck, I had the exact same. So the things that I have on my list for potential, and I pretty much concur. I think the number of days a week is absolutely a concern, and we need to make sure that our neighbors who do have concern with the enjoyment of their outdoor space, I really think we need to be sure to take that into consideration. And I understand that Nick and Jenny will be, working hard to keep that decibel level low outside the boundaries of the property, but we need to really be careful and cognizant of impacts on neighbors as well. And so, I would say, if we want to do, I haven't heard any comments from the public in general about, Nick had mentioned a Sunday brunch, music at Sunday brunch. Does anyone want to speak to that first? But before that, I also had a question on the number of hours per day. If we were to allow it, would it be, Nick had mentioned that sometimes there's music during dinner and then there's a different group that might come in for the post-dinner hour. So my questions were also, what time are we looking at as far as a stop time in the evening? And my personal opinion would be that 10 p.m. might be reasonable, but I think we should talk about it. And I also wanted to talk a little more about anybody having any concerns about brunch Sunday during the day music. If we were to say Wednesday to Saturday or Thursday through Saturday plus brunch, could we make something like that work? So first, Nick, maybe do you want to speak to those ideas? You're muted also.
Well, we're not open during the day the rest of the week.
Right.
So I don't think there's in the next 12 weeks. I find it very hard to believe that I would get, if I choose to be open for lunch during the day, that we're going to be populating Wednesday, Thursday, Friday days with music.
Mm-hmm.
It feels counterintuitive. Would I like the permission to be able to do it? Sure, but if it's a deal breaker right now, that's fine. 10 o'clock Wednesday, Thursday, it's fine. Friday, Saturday, it's fine. If that's what's going to get this, voted on tonight, that's fine. I would make a small case for till 11 on Friday, Saturday night, just because, for the following reason. The reality is that only 2 or 3 artists go to 11. The BTUs go to 11. They play with us regularly. BTUs go to 11 because that's what they do, and everybody stays to the bitter end and dances. And Four Sticks or Picky Bastards go to 11. That's really it. Most of them stop at 10, 15, 10, 20.
Yeah.
Most artists, especially solo artists, they don't have that much material.
They play till 10 at the latest. Sometimes it's been 9:30.
Right. We've had people complain, you said this was till 11,
Right.
and now they're leaving. So, I mean, the reality is, in operation, that it's going to be very rare that it would go to 11. It would have to be a unique artist that had that much material or had that much of a draw. So, and those would probably be the ones that are on Friday and Saturday nights, typically. So that would be great. 10's fine. If you guys want 10, especially on this first trial run, that's fine. I could also see how having 11 to 11 on Friday, Saturday would be useful for the trial run. So then we know. Then we have more data when we revisit it. So I can be completely objective and get behind either one. Operationally, the reality is most music is over by 10, 10:15. I would prefer it on Friday and Saturday to be a little later. People show up later. They go out later. Everything begins later. Shows themselves begin later. Some artists don't go on till 8:15, and then I got to go like this at 10 and be worried that somebody is just waiting with their fist cocked to make a noise complaint is going to be at 10:10 on
Right.
Friday and Saturday nights. That would be better for us to have 10:30. I don't know, something like that. That makes more sense.
Nick,
Yes.
Nick, what do you propose your start time for entertainment would be?
I would like to be able to start when we open at 5, if I so choose. If it's somebody quietly sitting playing guitar music that nobody can barely hear and it's background music, I think we need that flexibility. But
5 to 10 p.m.
Well, it would not be consistent
There'd be a
music for
break.
5 hours.
Right.
I
An
can't
early
imagine it, no.
And
and
it
then
might be 2 different acts, right? So
Like an hour of dinner music and then another. I mean, we can get in granular like that, but the reality of how we're going to exercise this would be, young and upcoming singer-songwriter wants to play an hour-long set during dinner. They're on at 6. They're off at 7. We're resetting. We don't pack in entertainment like that here. We never do. And we're not about to start doing it just because it's, the end time. So,
Yeah, I don't think we're looking to legislate that level of detail, but I think it's important for everyone to have an understanding of, what is the time frame we're talking about, and therefore the exposure.
I think that in all realism and in all clear communication, the most it would be is that on a given night there may be an early slot with someone playing for an hour, twiddling even quieter, little showcase piece for a less evolved, a less
lesser known
just that
artist.
someone is starting up and is less of a whatever it is. And then like a headlining piece at the end of the night would be following our previous template. But yeah, it would not be 5 contiguous or 6 contiguous hours of music.
And what would the brunch hours you had talked about potentially
At
having?
noon, so 12 to 3.
12 to 3, okay. All right.
Just to clarify where we are, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and brunch on Sunday is kind of what's on the table here. Is that?
That's what we're talking about.
Yep.
No
Okay.
decisions have been made.
Right.
So-
I've got some pretty strong rumbles here. I don't know about you.
yeah, me too. They're coming. The sky is a little bit of a funny color as well. Does someone? So my concern again with neighbors who have expressed, and I just want to make sure that this voice is heard, because some neighbors, certainly not all, as we've heard tonight, some neighbors have expressed concern about the enjoyment and use of their property, and that they don't want to hear any sound leakage. So, I just want to make that point. So I want to make sure that when we, should we have a motion to grant this petition with conditions, that we just take all of that into consideration. So Chuck or Rolf, does somebody want to make a motion?
I think I'm almost there. I just would like to, Nick, you could live with, could you really live with 10, or is that really going to be a problem on Friday and Saturday?
I think Friday, Saturday should be 11.
Yeah.
11. And again, maybe they won't, each artist, depending, won't go exactly, but to have that there for us, yeah.
So it's Saturday is the important date, night for
Friday,
that.
Saturday, yeah.
Friday and Saturday, 11, the rest 10.
Kathy, how do you feel about that?
I feel good about that. So what I am hearing is Wednesday, Thursday till 10, Friday, Saturday till 11. And we also have on the table Sunday from 12 to 3. And I want to make sure that as we write up conditions for this, should we approve the application, that we want to make sure that any of those, further sound monitoring and those sorts of things, without being onerous, because I don't want to be ludicrous about it, that we include those. And I agree with both Chuck and Rolf about the November 1st date for this particular COVID outdoor music.
I mean, my only question is, should it be a date certain, or should it be the expiration of phase 3 or something like that?
Well, phase 3, honestly, is likely to go well into next year.
Right.
We're going to be realistic about things. And, if we're in July next year and we're still in phase 3, my thinking about this is that if we have a November 1st or November 15th or whatever the right specific date is for this particular permit, that we give Nick and the community the opportunity to, sort of get ducks in a row and if you want to propose for either a permanent or a new short-term application for next summer, that the winter gives you time to do that. So that's why I like the November timeframe for the end of this particular permit, just because it's a clean, everybody knows what we're getting into. And I had at first thought the same thing, that maybe the end of phase 3 is the right solution, but who knows? I mean, that could be 3 years from now on.
Right.
That's a moving target. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd be much more comfortable with a specific date, because I think the community can know exactly what we're getting. We have a clear delineation, and then the Keens can regroup, decide what they want to do for the next year, and we can go forward from there on a subsequent application should one come. That's my feeling.
So to reiterate where we are, then it would be Wednesday, Thursday to 10, and Friday, Saturday to 11. Brunch Sunday 12. Was it 12 to 3, Nick? Was that?
Yes.
Okay.
There may not be music that whole time.
Right. And with a termination date of November 1st. Is that where we are, Kathy?
Yes, that's where I think we are.
Okay.
So does someone want to make a motion?
Chuck, are you on board with that?
I am.
Okay. I'll be happy to do it then. Kathy, And Chuck, I move to approve the petition of the Keens with the conditions that we've just talked about, that the limitations and conditions be for Wednesday and Thursday from 5 to 10 p.m. and Thursday and Friday evenings from 5 to 11 p.m.
Friday and Saturday.
I'm sorry, Friday and Saturday.
Saturday.
From 5 to 11 p.m. and Sunday from 12 to 3 p.m. With a termination date of November 1st without any prejudice as to whether they can come back to the board again for a permanent or another temporary permit.
I'll make a second to your motion.
Everybody seconds, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Say aye.
Okay. We have a conclusion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nick and Jenny. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thanks, sound guy, whose name I don't remember, Dave, I think. And thank all of you for your participation. Much appreciated.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Stay well.
Yes.